The top 16 defenders and forwards. Only 4 are strikers, so that is very interesting. I thought 12 defenders matching 4 strikers in the top leaderboard here. So I just found it interesting going forward. Obviously, 5 at the back's been talked about, 4 premium defenders been talked about. So yeah, just interesting to see if this trend continues going forward. Obviously, with City's defense, Chelsea's defense, but also Liverpool's as well. I think Van Dijk, not many people have talked about, probably because of the awkward price range, and everyone has Salah and Trent already. So it's do you triple up on Liverpool? But he's a 3rd defender this year behind Trent and Cancelo, and I've not seen anyone talk about him really. 18.2% owned, so a lot of teams do have him, but not ones that you kind of see around Twitter. Cresswell high up there again. He's not in as many teams as last year. Great corner for the goal. And then usual suspects, Rudiger, Chalobah's up there. Aspilicueta you expect. And then a couple of Brentford lads as well. And then Duffy, who didn't play at the weekend, but he's still right up there matching the strikers for points, which, yeah, just interesting just to see the value you get out of the defenders this year compared to the strikers.
Yeah, so is your sort of taking from this that like going 4 at the back definitely looks viable, like 4-4-2 probably?
Yeah, the only thing that makes it tricky doing that is I think Livramento is such a great option, but do you put him in as part of the 4 or do you play 5 at the back, like 5-3-2, 5-4, 5-4-1? That's I think that's the tricky decision because Southampton have got such great fixtures coming up and it'd be difficult to bench him, but you do see the value in the 4 kind of premium defenders as well. So yeah, it's just interesting to see what people do going forward.
Yeah, so I think are we gonna go into sort of the discussion on the defenders from here, or is that
Yeah.
So a lot of people this week are looking at what to do if they've got the non-explosive options from Chelsea and City defenders. So I'm in that boat with Diaz. Other people have got Aspilicueta. I'm in that boat again with Rudiger, even though he got an assist at the weekend. Probably not sustainable, him winning a penalty in the final minutes of a game like that. So do you think it's like a sideways move to go from like Aspilicueta or Diaz or someone like that to... No, sorry, not Aspilicueta or Rudiger to Chilwell? Or is that still a decent transfer to make?
I think with you, if you benches Smith Rowe and Livramento and people like that, I think it's a more than viable option to go Chilwell. I think watching Chilwell's last 2 games, especially the Norwich game, whether he does that in other games that are more difficult, he was literally playing up front. Like when Chelsea had the ball, he was pretty much on the D, like of the edge of the box, like pretty much central as well. And he had a few other shots at goal that were just over the bar. And Alonso was getting the points, wasn't in the first few weeks, which kind of suggests it's a positional thing for Chelsea, not just a player as well. Like the left fullback. I know James got a goal, but the left fullback definitely seems to be a lot more advanced in that Chelsea team. And I do think Chilwell probably over the course of the next 8 to 10 games, I think that transfer probably will pay off.
Yeah, it's something I'm thinking about at the moment because traditionally I don't really like to make like what you'd consider to be that sideways transfer. It feels a bit boring, but it probably isn't a sideways transfer, is it? There's a lot more upside to Chilwell. So yeah, and he's on corners as well. I think at the weekend it was Mason Mount taking him on one side and Chilwell on the other. I did actually, just to sort of get into my head how the Chelsea defence works, I sort of wrote out like what their defensive options were and who's competing with who for the positions. So left wing back is obviously Chilwell first choice, he'd say now, but especially with Alonso starting in the cup last night. So that's there. And then left centre back, you've got Rudiger and Sarr. So something that might happen going forwards with how Sarr's played when he's come in is that Rudiger might miss some of the easy games, which maybe the games you want him, and Sarr might get a run out, which is another factor to think about for people who are wondering about whether to get rid of Rudiger to go for something a bit more exciting. Centre back, it's probably Silva and Christensen battling with each other. So Silva looks to be preferred of the two. And then right centre back, you've got Aspie and Chalobah. And I noticed on the, I think it's the Planet FPL podcast, they're making a similar point with Chalobah that in some of the easier games is when Chalobah's coming in for a game. So if you've got Azpilicueta, that's maybe not ideal going forwards. If Aspie's going to be in the tougher games and Chalobah's in the easier ones, and then right wing back you've got James competing with Aspie again because Aspie can do both of those. How confident are you with Chilwell over Reece James? Because if Azpilicueta is out injured with whatever he's got, does that change your thinking at all?
Potentially. James, well, as the weeks progress, James will probably be a bit more of a differential, I imagine, now, because a lot of people are jumping on Chilwell. And I've not seen the percentage of ownership, but I think in terms of the teams that are above you, a lot more probably will be turning to Chilwell over James. I actually think Chilwell's probably more nailed now than James, I'd say, in that starting 11. I just think the way he's played the last few games, and obviously Alonso was given the cup game, wasn't he? Whereas James actually played the cup on yesterday, which was quite interesting. So I do think Chilwell will probably get majority of the Premier League games now. Everyone was waiting for that to happen, weren't they? And that's why Alonso probably wasn't as much of a bandwagon as his points were justifying. But I do think Chilwell is a lot more nailed in that side.
Fair play. And then you've got anything on the City defenders? For people who've got two City defenders, what would you say?
I'm lucky to get Diaz to Trent at some point, probably. I kind of got away with it up until the last game against United because his points return, he was getting like 6 and stuff, wasn't he? United was probably the first big one with 10. But I think now the trickier fixtures on paper are out of the way for Liverpool. Trent is probably the standout option. So I say if you haven't got Trent and you have got double City defence, that probably would be the sensible move. Probably Diaz to Trent or Diaz to a Chilwell would probably be on the radar. I think City have still got Palace next, haven't they? And then the easy trip to United. Still got good fixtures on paper. But I do think those fullbacks, I just think with the bench as well, Livramento on your bench, it kind of makes it a bit more, you can kind of be a bit more brave with your decision making compared to previous seasons where you want that nailed on option.
So, something else to mention with the defenders, I think a lot of people have Duffy, but he looks to be finally out of the team now, which something I've been waiting for ages. Bloody Duffy getting those lucky goals from corners.
That's the only thing I've held on to this year. Just as a counter to that, though, that probably was in effect down because they were playing City and he turns like a bus and he would have been playing on the right hand side of defence, and City's most of their attacks go down the left with Grealish, Bernardo and Foden. So whether that is a permanent drop in or whether that was just a one off would be interesting.
Because now that Lamptey's back, Veltman can go back to centre back, can't he?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see. I imagine
it'd be interesting to see if he starts the next game. If he doesn't start the next game again, then just kind of make that judgment. But if he plays the next game, it'd be interesting to see whether that was just a one-off benching.
So for people who are like really keen to get Chilwell in, so like this is me, I'm in this position, but I imagine there'll be other people. Would you go from Rudiger to Chilwell, or would you go from DS to Chilwell?
It's a tough call, that, isn't it? Rudiger and Diaz are very much like for like. Probably depends if you've got Cancelo as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. So like I've got DS, Cancelo, Trent, and Rudiger. So if I was to get Chilwell, the decision would be which one do I get rid of? I'd probably lean to get rid of Diaz just because of the price. I think he's more expensive. There's not as much chance of attacking returns from him to justify the price. You are relying on the clean sheet and bonus from him. So yeah, I think if I did make that transfer, that is where I'd be leaning to. I think the other thing is that if City do go on a bit of goal scoring run and they keep up the second form, you might want eventually to have more. You might want to have one striker or two City midfielders rather than having all your City coverage at the back. So yeah, it's something to think about. I do think Brighton were they left themselves a bit open to City from. I watched the first half and the way that they just left so much room for the counter attack seemed a bit surprising. I don't think there'll be. I don't think other teams. I don't think there'll be other teams that do that necessarily. So it'd be interesting to see if the goals do continue to flow at City.
Yeah, well, yeah, be interesting. The Palace game at the weekend. They've looked great, aren't they, under Vieira, but they do ship a few goals, don't they? So yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of. I think if City smash it again and Foden gets another 2, then everyone's going to be getting him in, isn't it? It's just a question: do you go now ahead of that fixture?
Yeah. Have we got anything else to talk about here for the premium defenders?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, I just think it'd be interesting to see what people do. Whether they get another fourth and Livramento will be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to know what to do with Livramento because his price kind of means that you sort of favour benching him, but really you should take his price out of it. Like if he's playing like a 5.5, 6 million defender, getting forward, having shots on goal, etc., we might have to rethink that whole thing of him being the least favoured one of the defenders. So I don't know, like if I do keep Diaz, I mean, what would you think if I benched Diaz and played Livramento ahead of him?
This week? I mean, it's a ballsy call, isn't it? But let's try and look Livramento last. Yeah, so he's returned. He got a clean sheet against Leeds, got an assist against Chelsea, yeah, and then obviously a goal against Burnley. Like, yeah, he's returning as a premium defender, hasn't he? Whether if he gets a clean sheet, combines a clean sheet with a goal, that'll be a big haul to have on your bench.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Something to ponder as we get towards the deadline.